My final video on the formal definition of a limit, and what it is, it's a proof, and we're going to prove that the limit of x as it approaches 2 of 2x plus 1 does indeed equal 5. Now, when you do this proof, what you're really showing is this part. You are showing that for each epsilon greater than 0, there is a delta, a corresponding delta. There is a delta greater than 0 such that the absolute value of 2x plus 1 minus 5 is less than epsilon when 0 is less than x minus 2 is less than delta. So what this is saying, in effect, is that you have to establish some type of relationship between epsilon and delta. In other words, when epsilon, or when delta goes down, epsilon goes down. When epsilon goes down, delta goes down. They have type of relationship. So what you're going to notice is this is very similar to the previous video, except I'm not going to give a value for epsilon. So I am establishing a relationship between f of x minus L, that absolute value, that distance, and the distance between x. Remember, this is epsilon, this is delta. Well, I know this. I'm going to start out that 2x plus 1 minus 5 less than epsilon. This gives me 2x minus 4 is less than epsilon. That means I can factor out a 2. I get x minus 2 less than epsilon. Now, I want to manipulate this algebraically so I get this x minus c. c is 2 here. F of x is 2x plus 1. My limit is 5. So I want to get this x minus c. So I have taken this part right here and got it in terms of x minus c. Because the absolute value of 2 is 2. And I'm going to have x minus 2 is less than epsilon. So now I'm going to get this x minus 2, which is x minus c, less than epsilon divided by 2. And if you remember from the previous video, I said, oh, it's half of that. That means my delta will always be half of my epsilon. So when my epsilon is a value, my delta will be half as much. When I have a delta value, my epsilon will be twice as much. There's a relationship between both of them. But as I decrease one, the other one has to decrease because of that relationship. So what I do is I let epsilon, or excuse me, I let delta be epsilon divided by 2. And in doing that, I've established my relationship. Because as epsilon decreases, so does delta.